Well, hello. So today I am going to be discussing the 5 hair mistakes that may be aging you. And I know I might look a little funny today. I also just finished a video on some of the makeup mistakes that I used to make, and also makeup changes that I've had to make along the years as my face has changed. So if you're interested in seeing that, please check that out. I hope it's obvious what side is the good side and what side's the bad side, but anyways, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that I think is the most important deal when wanting to have a more youthful, healthy appearance is having good, healthy hair. Because healthy hair is beautiful hair. And so if you've got the dry, brittle, frizzy hair, it's not gonna look, it's not gonna make you look your best. I also know that as we age, our hair changes. It might change in texture, this and that. So it's really good to try to find a really good hair care routine and give your hair that extra, TLC that it's needing. Some people think that the color of your hair is what ages you. And so if you have gray hair, then you're going to look older. And I think that's more of a societal thing. It's always been an association in our culture that gray hair is, old. But I do think that now that we're seeing a lot more people embracing their grays, hopefully we're going to see a shift in that so that it'll be a lot more commonplace. I know for me personally, I do find, I think gray hair is beautiful and I love it. I mean, if you have, this beautiful gray, shiny, healthy hair, I think that that looks better than, like for me, when I was having to, conceal my grays, I had to color my hair like twice a month. So every 2 weeks to cover up that outgrowth. And it just really wasn't, my hair was starting to not look good. Even though it was darker colored, it really didn't look its best. But don't get me wrong, I don't think that, if you want to continue coloring your hair and, you're not having any issues. I did start having scalp irritation and that sort of thing. And like I said, I was interested in going gray, but if you have no interest in going gray, don't feel like you have to. If coloring your hair is working for you, then that is how you're going to feel your best. And so we need to support each other regardless of whether you decide to go gray or not. And I know for me personally, as well as, some of my friends, it wasn't easy in the beginning. There's always going to be those people that maybe discourage you. So I remember talking to this one lady and telling her, I'm really interested in going gray. And I was really excited about it. And of course, the same response, oh, gray will make you look old. And I was thinking to myself, well, I am old, and again, it's a cultural thing where, gray hair, old, is it something bad? We really do need to change that opinion because old is a privilege. We're all going through it. So, rather than it being, oh, I want to look younger, it should shift to, I want to look my best. And I'm using this lady as an example, not to shame her, but, color doesn't matter. She had her hair colored, but it looked dull and lifeless, brittle, and her roots weren't managed. So that leads me to the second mistake that people may be making, and that is if you are covering your grays, you really have to keep up with it. And like I said, I had to do it, cover my grays every 2 weeks, because it does not matter how beautiful your hair is. Once that skunk line shows up, that is what draws people's attention. It goes right to there. And that's so unfair, because your face and unfortunately your hairline is the first thing that people are going to notice. So if they see these bright, these bright grays popping out, then unfortunately that's what they're looking at. Now, for people that are going gray, this third tip is, okay, instead of having to maintain your skunk line, because you don't have to do that anymore, what you do have to maintain is any sort of yellowing that you may have, because it's a real bummer to go through the whole growing out process. Your grays, you finally have your hair the way it is, and then you've got this yellowing, and it draws that attention to it looking more like you're just unkept. Now, I hope you guys have noticed, I'm trying to show this is the good side, and then this is the bad side. And I just thought I'd have a little bit of fun with it. But the fourth point that I would like to make is that style, your style. And I'm not going to say one style is better than the other, because we're all different. So whatever style works for you, you're going to feel your best in it. So once you find a style that works for you, you are going to feel more beautiful, more confident, more comfortable with your appearance. But as you can see, my hair is the style that I want. The cut, the length, the shape, whatever. But I have to style my hair. You have to address whatever your hair care needs are. So, like for me, people say, why don't you just let your hair air dry naturally? Okay, this is why I don't do that, is because part of my hair, the bottom part, has a lot of curl to it and frizz, okay? So it's very, very kinky, curly almost under here, but then the top layers are straight. So no style or cut is going to make this look right, okay? So what I have to do is then blow dry my hair straight and try to smooth it out as much as possible. Then I will go in and with a curling iron add a little bit of curl, because that is what I like. Another thing that I really don't subscribe to is that at a certain point you need to cut your hair short. And I see that regardless if your hair's short or long, if it's healthy, if it's well taken care of, it's going to look gorgeous. When I was actually looking at Pinterest and looking at hairstyles, these are the pictures that really inspired me. And you cannot tell me that they don't look gorgeous. And I love long hair. I mean, I've on the most part always worn it long. That's how I like my hair. And so I remember hearing, oh, when you turn 40, you have to cut your hair. And I was like, what? What about those little ladies that wear their hair up in a bun? I want to be one of those gals. So you don't have to cut your hair. Now, like I say, you want a style that suits you. That's the important thing. But if it's long or short, as long as it's in good, healthy condition, it's probably going to look great on you. And lastly, I would like to address hair loss. And I know that sends just dread through pretty much anybody. And I would pray that, oh my gosh, I hope to God I don't lose my hair, because some people do. And I always kind of felt like there was really nothing you could do about it. But the more I've researched it, the more I know that there are treatments out there. So that's made me feel a lot better. Another thing to really know is that it is perfectly normal for everybody to lose some hair. I mean, it just happens. As we age, we lose some hair. But it doesn't necessarily mean you lose all your hair. It's just not going to be as thick as it maybe once was. And for women specifically going through menopause, a lot of times the hair loss is affected by lots of things, stress, hormonal changes. So if you had any children, you may notice that while you were pregnant, your hair grew like crazy because you're taking your prenatal vitamins and all this stuff, but also your hormones are, it's working for your hair. Unfortunately, once you have your baby, then you might notice a lot more of a hair loss. So your hair has cycles, it goes through those, and that's one thing to be aware of. Another thing is if you have an episode of some, pretty extreme stress, again, you may notice some hair loss. And don't be surprised if you notice it like months later because of the cycles that our hair goes through. We've got the growing phase, and then we've got where it stops, and then the shedding. So that's maybe why you would experience something. But one thing that I really think is an important thing to do is really, really keep an eye on your hair and hair loss. I'm going through menopause, and so I kind of felt like I noticed a little bit more hair loss than before. So what I like to do is really keep an eye on that. And so I'll use that, like every week I'll clean out my brushes and see if, it looks about average. Now, I don't sit there and count each strand or anything, but you can kind of eyeball it and see if you're starting to notice that. Another thing that I kind of keep an eye on is this. Now, if you start noticing hair loss here, it might be actually because of your hairstyle. You might be wearing too tight of a hairstyle, and it's actually pulling, and it's what is it called? Tractional hair loss or whatever, where you're actually pulling your hair out there. But if you are starting to notice, another place to kind of keep an eye on is your part, because if you do start losing hair, that's where you're going to start noticing it. So this starts getting wider and wider in females, as well as here. So, I like to keep an eye on that and say, okay, well, does that look normal, or is it starting to widen? Now, if you do notice that you are experiencing more hair loss, go to a dermatologist. It's best to keep an eye on it now, and if you do start noticing it, go sooner than later. They will be able to do a test, and this is a test you can actually do at home, but it's called a pull and tug test, where they take sections all around your hair of like about 40 hairs, and then they pull on it. And if you're losing, what is it? 40 strands. And if 6 or more strands fall out, then you might be experiencing hair loss. And so you can get treatment at that point. Because I think what happens is it might sneak up on you, and then all of a sudden you're seeing your hair super thin. It happens, relatively slowly, hair loss, but hair regrowth is just as slow. And so it's good to get your treatment, and then you'll start noticing your hair thickening up, because it could take a year, 2 years, or whatever before all of that regrowth starts filling in, and your hair starts looking a little bit healthier. So please, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and I hope you have a great day.